The United States has been accused of violating international law by killing innocent civilians in drone strikes. Reports by Amnesty International and Human Rights Watch say that US officials responsible for drone attacks in Pakistan and Yemen could be committing war crimes. And in both countries, the use of drones is creating a backlash against the US. Our Washington correspondent Rajini Vaidyanathan has more.
The remains and rubble of a drone strike in a tribal area of Pakistan. The unmanned aircraft attack from the skies. The US has been using this method to target and kill terror suspects for a number of years. But there's growing concern about innocent civilians who are also dying in these strikes. Amnesty International analysed 9 such attacks in Waziristan, northwest Pakistan. It found that men, women and children appear to have been unlawfully killed or injured. It also claims some of the attacks could be seen as war crimes. The Human Rights Watch organisation separately investigated 6 drone attacks in Yemen and concluded that 2 of the strikes killed innocent people indiscriminately.
People in Yemen, in Pakistan, in Somalia are asking why is the U.S. carrying out these strikes and not telling us when they kill innocent civilians? It's getting to the point where in many of these areas, citizens are more fearful of the U.S. than they are of the militants whom the U.S. is combating in their countries.
The use of drones has gone up since President Obama came to office, with many people criticising his administration for a lack of transparency over their use. Many people want to know more about who they're targeting and when and how they're deployed. This week, Pakistan's Prime Minister Nawaz Sharif is in Washington for talks. He says drones are a challenge to his country and could ask President Obama to stop these kind of strikes when the pair meet on Wednesday. The US continues to use drones as a way to fight extremism. But these latest reports from human rights organisations say there needs to be more information and further investigations into what happens when innocent people end up getting killed. Rajini Vaidyanathan, BBC News, Washington.
And we are speaking to Amnesty a little later in this programme. Now, let's get more on that top story. Human rights groups say that US drone strikes violate international law. With me in the studio, one of the authors of this new report, Polly Truscott. She's head of the Amnesty International South Asia programme. Thanks very much for coming in. No one is going to want to see innocent civilians die. Many have died over the last few years. But what on earth is the alternative?
Well, I think, first of all, let's talk about those actual cases that we've found. What we found is that an older woman, 68-year-old woman, picking vegetables in the field, were surrounded by her grandchildren, was blown apart, and her children were also injured in that attack. So, yes, of course we don't want to see that happen, but of course we also don't want to see armed violence happening also. The Pakistan government has done little to ensure that those who are committing crimes in Pakistan, in the northwestern areas, are being brought to justice. So what we'd rather see is Pakistan taking further action to bring such people to justice, as well as the USA assisting in that process. But isn't
that an incredibly naive line, and that this report is typical of Western liberal coverage, which does nothing to address the real problem? You know, critics of the Pakistan government say they not only don't address the problem themselves, they are causing it. They set up the Taliban. They are funding many of the militants who carry out the terrorist activities in the first place. And in any war, you're going to get innocent civilian casualties.
Well, first of all, Amnesty International's work has focused very much on violence by armed groups in the past. We've also looked at violence by Pakistan armed forces.
But why don't you criticise the Pakistani government
now
further,
what we're doing
instead
is
of just criticising the United States?
Let me answer your question first. You asked me why we're focusing on this now, and is it a Western agenda? No, it's not. What we're finding is that the people in the tribal areas are being attacked on all sides by the Taliban, by Pakistan forces.
But the point is, you've got no alternative.
Now from the skies.
You suggest nothing as a real alternative to the growing problem of militancy.
No, one alternative to that is for the USA to ensure that its actions themselves, if we just tackle each perpetrator that is causing abuse in the country, one of them is the USA. We're not saying that all strikes in the USA are unlawful, in Pakistan are unlawful, but we are saying that some of the strikes that the USA has conducted in Pakistan look like they have been unlawful. And under international humanitarian law, the laws of war, we recognise, and law recognises, that some combatants and those involved in fighting, it's lawful for those people to be attacked. And it's also lawful that civilian deaths and injuries may result from lawful attacks. All we're trying to show is that there have been killings and injuries of people who have not been involved in
of course they
fighting.
have, but President
and
Obama
it's up to
himself,
us and others
but
to try
President
and
Obama
stop those
himself
killings happening.
approves the list of who is going to be targeted. Of course, this is very, very difficult to do. It's not as specific as anyone wants. There are bound to be casualties. But I just ask you again, what on earth is the alternative? Are you suggesting that America sends boots on the ground into Yemen and Pakistan?
We're not.
All the other areas where there is a problem?
I think this is going off in the wrong way. We're not saying that all strikes are unlawful. What we're saying is that some are. We believe that they are. We want the USA to explain. The USA has not even acknowledged that it has even killed this older woman who's picking vegetables in the fields. That family's life has been blown apart. They deserve some justice. There's been nothing happening for them since then.
Absolutely, and the anger is completely understandable of those whose lives are lost.
And certainly isn't conducive to counter-terrorism measures.
No, of course it's not, and it's caused huge and very understandable grief and anger in those countries. But by producing such a naive and one-sided report, you are not helping the global fight, are you here? That there is
Our job is not to help the global fight. Our job is to ensure that all laws are respected.
It's actually damaging, isn't it, to any government trying to sort out the mess politically that is growing in these regions. It's been there for years. You're not saying anything new.
Well, we are seeing some new. Very few organisations have been able to gather the kind of evidence that we have. We have cross-checked satellite data with testimony from the ground. Very difficult to get into those areas. I think these people who are in such a neglected part of the world deserve to have their voices heard. They're not having their voices heard. A lot of these tribal people are, as I said, being confronted by all sides, and it's organisations like us are letting sure that their voices are being heard. If it was your grandmother or my grandmother, I would be particularly upset that no one has acknowledged that she was being killed.
Absolutely. Thanks very much indeed. Polly Truscott here from Amnesty. Thank you.